Feeling like your business is basically a nonstop emergency? Like you're waking up every day already behind, juggling a dozen problems while your brain is screaming for a break? You're not alone. Modern entrepreneurship feels like living inside a pressure cooker. Markets shift overnight, competition multiplies instantly, and every decision feels like it could make or break your future. But what if I told you that the secret to staying calm, clear-headed, and unshakably resilient comes from wisdom that's over 2,000 years old? Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus faced chaos that would make even today's business world look easy, and they developed mental frameworks that allowed them to stay centered through crisis, uncertainty, and nonstop pressure. In this video, we're taking their ancient principles and translating them into practical, battle-tested strategies for entrepreneurs. By the end, you'll know exactly how to protect your mental clarity, stay grounded in chaos, and lead your business with steady confidence, no matter what storms hit you. Let's start with understanding the pressure you're already carrying and why Stoicism might be the missing piece you didn't know you needed. Chapter 1. The Entrepreneurial Pressure Cooker. Why you're already feeling it. Entrepreneurship in 2025 isn't just challenging, it's emotionally violent. You're not just building a business, you're being pulled in 100 different directions at once. Every message pings your phone like an alarm bell. Every market shift feels like a personal threat. Every stagnating metric feels like failure whispering in your ear. The world moves at a speed humans were never designed to adapt to. Algorithms change weekly. Consumer behavior evolves monthly. Competitors appear overnight. AI tools emerge faster than you can learn them. And on top of all that, there's this constant, suffocating pressure to be always on. You wake up thinking about the business. You fall asleep thinking about the business. Your brain never shuts off. And let's be honest, part of the pressure comes from inside you. Entrepreneurs are wired differently. You're driven, ambitious, hungry to build something great. But that same drive often morphs into constant self-critique. I should be further than this. I'm not doing enough. What if this fails and I wasted years of my life? Fear of failure isn't just a fear. It becomes a shadow following you everywhere. This is the modern reality. You're operating in a world of uncertainty, speed, and endless responsibility, while also dealing with inner expectations that never stop rising. No wonder so many entrepreneurs feel burned out, anxious, or mentally overwhelmed. Here's the part most people don't realize. You don't actually need less chaos. You need better mental tools for handling it. That's exactly where Stoicism enters the chat, not as ancient philosophy, but as a practical survival system for modern entrepreneurs. Chapter 2. Unlocking Ancient Wisdom. Stoicism's modern secret weapon. If Chapter 1 was about recognizing the weight you're currently carrying, Chapter 2 is about discovering the ancient mental technology that can actually help you carry it without breaking. Stoicism isn't some abstract philosophy taught in dusty university halls. It's a battle-tested operating system designed for people who lived in a world full of danger, unpredictability, betrayal, war, political chaos, and constant uncertainty. In other words, a world a lot like entrepreneurship. But here's the twist. Stoicism wasn't created by monks sitting in quiet meditation. Its greatest practitioners were leaders, generals, statesmen, emperors, and teachers who had everything at stake. These were people who couldn't afford emotional breakdowns, overthinking spirals, or fear-based reactions. They needed clarity. They needed control. They needed mental armor. And that's exactly what Stoicism gave them. Marcus Aurelius, the CEO of chaos. Imagine running an empire while dealing with wars, plagues, rebellions, assassins, political enemies, and nonstop public pressure. Marcus Aurelius had to lead millions of people through crises that would make modern business problems look like a minor inconvenience. Yet he stayed composed, focused, rational. Why? Because he built his mindset on one foundational principle. Control what's in your control. Release everything else. For an entrepreneur, this awareness is gold. You can't control the economy. You can't control your competitors. You can't control whether people buy today. But you can control your decisions, your discipline, your reactions, and your strategy. This is where Stoicism becomes a superpower. Seneca, the startup mentor you wish you had. Seneca knew wealth, power, risk, and betrayal. He advised emperors, navigated deadly politics, and still managed to stay mentally grounded through pure chaos. His teachings were built on a simple truth. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. For entrepreneurs, that hits hard. How many nights have you lost sleep over? Worst-case scenarios. Imagine failures. What ifs and maybes. Fears that never actually happened. Seneca teaches you to differentiate real problems from the ones your mind manufactures. He knew that mental noise kills clarity, and clarity is the #1 resource an entrepreneur can't afford to lose. Epictetus, the master of internal power. Epictetus was born a slave, rose to become one of history's most influential teachers, and built his philosophy around one truth. You may not control events, but you control how you respond to them. This is the entrepreneurial mindset in its purest form. Your product launch fails? You respond. A key employee quits? You respond. Funding falls through? You respond. When you realize that your response is your real power, you stop feeling like a victim of circumstances and start thinking like a strategist. The core Stoic principle, the dichotomy of control. This is the heart of everything. There are only 2 categories in life: what you can control, what you can't. Entrepreneurs waste months of mental energy worrying about things in category number 2. Stoicism forces you to cut that waste. Imagine waking up every day with full clarity. These actions today are within my control, so I'll focus on them. These outcomes aren't, so I'll stop giving them mental rent. It's not magic. It's discipline. It's mental minimalism. It's the OS update your brain didn't know it needed. Negative visualization, the mental shield against future chaos. This sounds scary, but it's actually genius. Stoics practiced imagining things going wrong in advance, not to panic, but to prepare. As an entrepreneur, this means mentally rehearsing. A launch flop, investors backing out, sudden market shifts, PR issues, revenue dips, team conflicts, tech failures. Most people avoid thinking about these. Stoics lean into them, so they're never blindsided. It's the same technique elite athletes, elite soldiers, and elite leaders use today. Why? Because once your brain has already visited the problem, it no longer shocks you. And when you're not shocked, you think clearly. And when you think clearly, you make better decisions. Stoicism equals entrepreneurial mental armor. In today's chaotic business world, anxiety can feel automatic. Stress feels normal. Chaos feels inevitable. But Stoicism gives you the tools to stay centered while the world spins around you. It teaches you to separate emotion from strategy, respond instead of react, turn obstacles into opportunities, stay calm when others panic, lead with clarity instead of fear, build a steel-strong mindset. This is an ancient philosophy. This is high-performance mental engineering. And now that you understand the foundation, it's time to move into the tactical side, the Stoic hacks that you can apply immediately inside your business. Chapter 3. Practical Stoic hacks for daily business battles. Now that you understand the Stoic mindset, it's time to weaponize it. This chapter breaks down the specific, battle-tested Stoic techniques you can use to survive, adapt, and thrive in the unpredictable world of entrepreneurship. These hacks aren't theory. They're practical tools designed for chaotic days, unexpected fires, mental overload, and high-stakes decision-making. The everyday life of a business builder. 1. Premeditatio malorum, the Stoic disaster rehearsal. Translated, it means the premeditation of adversity. In today's terms, risk simulation for entrepreneurs. Most founders only deal with problems when they explode. Stoics? They forecast them early and significantly reduce the emotional impact. Here's how it works. Step 1. Identify the worst realistic business scenarios. Not fantasy disasters, real risks like a major client leaving, a failed product launch, a supply chain breakdown, a marketing campaign underperforming, revenue dipping for a month, a key employee resigning. Step 2. Visualize it happening without emotional panic. Not catastrophizing, just mentally walking through it. Step 3. Ask yourself, if this happened, how would I respond? What would be the first 3 actions I'd take? What backup systems or safety nets can I build now? This technique builds something priceless. Back-end index pointing right, pre-adapted resilience. When a real issue arrives, your brain says, we've already been here, we're prepared. No panic, no emotional meltdown, just strategy. 2. A more fatty, loving the obstacles instead of resisting them. This is one of the most misunderstood Stoic ideas, and one of the most powerful for entrepreneurs. You don't just accept challenges. You embrace them as gifts, fuel for growth. In business, nothing ever goes perfectly. Partnerships fall apart. Algorithms change. Campaigns fail. Competitors emerge. Markets shift. People disappoint you. Stoicism teaches you. The obstacle is the path. Imagine reframing every setback with this mindset. Backhand index pointing right, good. This is where I get stronger. Backhand index pointing right, good. This forces me to innovate. Backhand index pointing right, good. This teaches me what I didn't know. Suddenly, the chaos stops feeling like chaos and starts feeling like training. High-performing entrepreneurs naturally do this. Stoicism gives you the framework to do it intentionally. 3. Mindful detachment, the emotional firewall. As an entrepreneur, you deal with high-pressure decisions, negative feedback, urgent issues, unexpected failures, big financial stakes. Your emotions can cloud everything. Stoics understood this deeply and learned how to detach without becoming numb. This isn't don't feel anything. It's feel it, but don't let it hijack your logic. The method. Step 1. Label the emotion. I'm frustrated. I'm stressed. I'm overwhelmed. Naming the emotion reduces its intensity. Step 2. Ask, is this helpful right now? 90% of the time, the answer is no. Step 3. Zoom out. Imagine you're advising someone else. What would you tell them to do? Your brain switches from emotional to strategic mode instantly. This is how Stoics kept clarity under extreme adversity, and it works brilliantly in business. 4. The 2-minute control filter. Every entrepreneur needs this. When facing a stressful situation, ask, 1. What parts of this are in my control? 2. What parts aren't? Then, do something about number 1. Ice cube release number 2 completely. Examples. Competitor moves out of your control. Your product quality in your control. Market conditions out. Your marketing strategy in. A team member's attitude out. Your leadership in. This filter cuts your mental load in half. Suddenly decisions feel cleaner. Stress drops. Focus returns. 5. The Stoic pause. A tiny habit that prevents huge mistakes. Marcus Aurelius practiced a mental pause before reacting to anything. As an entrepreneur, this saves you from sending a heated email, making a rushed financial decision, agreeing to something you shouldn't, snapping at your team, overreacting to problems. The Stoic pause is simple. Take 3 seconds before responding to anything important. Those 3 seconds shift you from instinct and tension. You go from chaos, clarity. 6. Daily reflection, the Stoic nightly ritual. Almost every Stoic journaled, not for creativity, for mental clarity and correction. Every night ask, what went well today? Why? What didn't go well? Why? What did I learn? What will I do better tomorrow? This creates continuous self-improvement. You become an entrepreneur who evolves daily instead of reacting randomly. The compounding effect is massive. 7. Priority minimalism, the Stoic productivity hack. Stoics weren't busy for the sake of being busy. They focused on what mattered. Entrepreneurs often drown in tasks that don't move the needle. Here's this Stoic method. Every morning, choose one meaningful task. Not 5, not 10, 1. This is your essential action. If you complete it, the day is a win, no matter what else happens. This builds momentum and reduces overwhelm. 8. Internal scoreboard, the end of comparison anxiety. Stoics never measured themselves against others, only against their own progress. In entrepreneurship, comparison kills. Someone raises funding. Someone scales faster. Someone gets more views. Someone goes viral. Someone blows up quicker. You start doubting your path. Stoicism teaches, compete with your past self, not your competitors. Track your habits, your clarity, your discipline, your consistency, your decision-making. This creates stable confidence in an unstable world. 9. Emotional neutrality in chaos, your secret advantage. When things go wrong, and they will, your ability to stay calm becomes a competitive weapon. In chaotic situations, 90% of people react emotionally. Stoic entrepreneurs respond strategically. This gives you better decisions, more accurate judgment, less stress, a stronger team culture, more respect, more confidence, higher performance. Calm is contagious. Chaos is too. Choose your influence. Fire the bottom line. Stoicism isn't about disconnecting from reality. It's about giving you the tools to handle reality with strength, clarity, and composure. With these practical hacks, you don't just survive the chaos. You use it to become unstoppable. Chapter 4. Building your inner fortress. Case studies and implementation. If chapters 1 to 3 were about understanding Stoicism, this chapter is about locking it into your bones, turning wisdom into muscle memory. Ancient philosophy is cool and all, but if it doesn't translate into your daily grind as an entrepreneur, it's just motivational wallpaper. This chapter shows what Stoicism looks like in action through real-world style case studies, fictionalized for safety, realism, and clarity, and then gives you a simple framework you can actually use starting today. The inner fortress, what it actually means. Stoics didn't aspire to be emotionless robots. Far from it. They aimed to be strong, grounded, and nearly impossible to mentally destabilize, regardless of what life hurled at them. Think of your mind as a castle. The walls equals your principles. The gate equals your ability to decide what gets in. The watchtowers equals your self-awareness. The armory equals your resilience practices. A storm can rage outside, but the fortress doesn't panic. Entrepreneurs need that same inner stability because, let's be real, the chaos isn't going away. You just get better at navigating it. So let's look at how this works in practice. Case Study 1. The Funding Meltdown Stoic Principle. Premeditatio malorum plus emotional control. Scenario. Amira, a 26-year-old founder working on an AI productivity tool, spent 10 months prepping for a major VC meeting. Everything was riding on this moment. Her team was small and runway was thinning. She walked into the boardroom calm, not because she wasn't nervous, but because she had already done the mental reps. Stoic move number 1, premeditatio malorum. 2 weeks prior, she had spent 5 minutes each morning visualizing. The pitch going badly. The investors tearing apart her metrics. Questions she couldn't answer. Walking out with zero funding. Not to catastrophize, but to emotionally prepare. So when the investors said, "We're passing for now," she didn't crumble. She'd already been in that scenario in her mind. Her emotional response was blunted, not numb, but balanced. Stoic move number 2, control the controllables. She asked for feedback, recorded their concerns, thanked them, and left. That night, instead of spiraling, she listed. Heavy check mark what she could control, customer feedback, product improvements, burn rate. What she couldn't control, VC preferences, market timing. She refocused on the first list and built a new runway strategy. Outcome: 8 weeks later, after refining the product and tightening financials, she secured funding from another firm that was a better fit. Her calm didn't magically fix everything. Her composure allowed her to stay strategic when most founders would panic. Case study 2. The customer backlash storm Stoic principle, a more fatty love of fate. Scenario: Jonas, a 20-year-old e-commerce founder, had a nightmare weekend. A batch of defective products went out, customers flooded social media with angry posts, and his notifications turned into a fire hose of negativity. Anyone else would have panicked. Jonas had a moment, but he caught himself. Instead of resisting the situation, he leaned into it. A more fatty in action. He embraced the ugly moment. This didn't happen to me. It happened for me. There's something here I can use. Here's what he did. Responded with empathy, not defensiveness. Replaced all faulty items free of charge. Turned the apology into content, showing transparency. Used the incident to overhaul his supplier process. Outcome: the backlash turned into a loyalty generator. Followers praised his transparency and maturity. Sales recovered, and even grew because people trusted him more. Jonas didn't just survive the chaos. He turned it into his advantage. Case study 3. The overwhelmed solopreneur Stoic principle. Mindful detachment plus objective judgment. Scenario: Ava was trying to run her online brand solo. Content, emails, customer service, product development, all of it. She felt fried. Every problem felt personal, like she was failing. One night she read Marcus Aurelius, and something clicked. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. She tried something radically simple the next morning. The Stoic step outside yourself technique. Whenever she hit a problem, angry customer, botched upload, glitch, she paused and asked, if I were advising someone else, what would I say? Instant clarity. The emotional fog lifted because she wasn't inside the problem anymore. She was observing it from the outside. Buying time between stimulus and response equals hidden entrepreneurial superpower. Outcome: she made better decisions, saved hours of emotional exhaustion per week, and felt more in control of her business and her sanity. Implementation: how you build your inner fortress. Here's how to shift stoicism from cool idea to daily operating system. 1. Choose one Stoic practice to start. Don't try to become Marcus Aurelius overnight. Pick one of these. Premeditatio malorum, 5 minutes per day. A more fatty journaling. Reflect on one setback and reframe it. Daily control audit, 2 lists. Controllable versus uncontrollable. Objective third-person perspective. What would I tell a friend? Consistency beats intensity. 2. Anchor it to a daily routine. Attach the practice to something you already do. Brushing your teeth, opening your laptop, morning coffee, clocking in for work, before reviewing analytics. Habits stick when they piggyback on existing ones. 3. Track your emotional wins. This is crucial. Whenever you react calmly, avoid spiraling, shift into clarity, stay focused during chaos. Write it down. Over time, you'll see your progress stack up like compound interest. 4. Build Stoic micro-reflexes. When stress hits, run this quick mental sequence. Pause, breathe, label the emotion, ask what's controllable, act on the first controllable thing. This becomes your automatic response to chaos. The compounding effect. Stoicism isn't about instant transformation. It's about the daily rewiring of your emotional circuitry. Little practices, repeated often, turn into a steadier mind, sharper decisions, clearer priorities, resilience that surprises even you, and eventually unshakable calm. Your inner fortress isn't built in a day, but with each brick, each practice, you become a version of yourself who can stand firm no matter what the business world throws at you. Chapter 5. building your inner fortress, case studies, and real-world implementation. Entrepreneurship often looks glamorous from the outside. Sleek offices, confident founders, polished pitches, and big wins splashed across social media. But behind the curtain, it's a grind of uncertainty, stress, and pressure that can crush even the strongest personalities if they're not mentally prepared. This is where Stoicism becomes your secret armor. And in this chapter, we translate those principles into real-world entrepreneurial battles. Because theories are nice, but you need to see how this works in the trenches. Case Study 1. The funding crisis that forced clarity. Meet Daniel, a founder navigating a turbulent Series A raise. Everything looked promising: strong traction, impressive user retention, a confident pitch deck, until two investors unexpectedly pulled out during due diligence. Panic hit him instantly. His team depended on this funding. Payroll was looming. The product roadmap needed resources. His mind flooded with catastrophic thoughts. Then he remembered one principle he'd been practicing for months. Focus on what you can control. Epictetus. Instead of spiraling into anger or self-blame, Daniel did three things. He listed everything he couldn't control: investor decisions, market fluctuations, timing, sentiment. He listed what he could control: updating projections, following up with warm leads, restructuring for runway, and communicating transparently with his team. He acted quickly. He scheduled 5 new investor calls in 48 hours, cut non-essential spending, and created a Plan B financing timeline. Within 3 weeks, another investor stepped in, and this time on even better terms. Stoic takeaway: he didn't change the situation. He changed his response to the situation. That's the Stoic entrepreneur's edge. Case Study 2. The product failure that became an opportunity. Now let's talk about Amira, a founder whose new product launch completely face-planted. The servers crashed, users complained for days, and social media was brutal. Any normal founder would spiral into embarrassment and frustration. Amira chose a more fatty instead. Love the fate that befalls you. Nietzsche, a Stoic at heart, instead of seeing the failure as a setback, she viewed it as valuable data. She brought the team together, not for blame, but for clarity. What went wrong? Why did it go wrong? How do we prevent this forever? They turned the failure into a public commitment to transparency and improvement. Users appreciated the honesty. Influencers praised the humility. And their launch? Wildly successful. Amira's mindset didn't just protect her emotionally. It transformed a disaster into trust-building gold. Stoic takeaway: obstacles aren't roadblocks. They are raw material. Case Study 3. The founder who was paralyzed by emotion. Our third example is Leon, a brilliant but overwhelmed solo founder. He would freeze during tough decisions. Hiring, firing, pivoting. Fear dominated every move. After studying Stoicism, he adopted one simple habit that changed everything: mindful detachment. He started treating each decision like a scientist analyzing data, not a person reacting emotionally. Here's how he did it. He wrote down the problem, listed the objective facts only, removed adjectives, assumptions, maybes, and emotional narratives, evaluated the decision as if he were advising another founder, not himself. This tiny mental shift lowered his stress, increased his clarity, and boosted his confidence dramatically. Within a year, Leon grew his startup 4 times, not because he worked harder, but because he thought clearer. Stoic takeaway: emotion clouds judgment. Detachment sharpens it. A simple daily framework to build your Stoic muscle. Let's make this practical for you. You can start building your inner fortress right now with these 3 daily habits. 1. The morning rehearsal, premeditatio malorum. Before your day begins, acknowledge possible challenges. Delayed client, a lost deal, a tough email, tech issues, a surprise expense. Prepare emotionally before the chaos hits. 2. Midday reality check. Ask yourself, what's in my control right now? If the answer is nothing, release it. If the answer is something, act. 3. Evening reflection. Write down, what challenged you today? How did you respond? What would a Stoic do next time? Tiny reflections compound into massive resilience. Why these practices work so powerfully. Each of these habits reshapes your mind to remain steady when the world shakes. Prepares you for uncertainty instead of fearing it. Eliminates emotional sabotage. Makes you a calmer leader. Strengthens logical thinking under pressure. Prevents burnout. Builds long-term emotional stamina. This is how entrepreneurs survive chaos. Not with brute force, but with inner stillness. This isn't just philosophy. It's a competitive advantage. Stoicism is not about suppressing feelings. It's about mastering them. Founders who do this make better decisions, adapt faster, and build stronger teams because their stability becomes contagious. This chapter isn't about ancient ideas. It's about turning your mind into a fortress so you can build a business that thrives because you remain unshaken. Chapter 6. Your Path to Unshakable Calm. A Call to Action. You've learned how entrepreneurs throughout history, both ancient and modern, have used Stoic principles to stay grounded while navigating storms that would break most people. But knowledge alone isn't transformation. Calm isn't something you stumble into, it's something you build. And this chapter is your blueprint for turning everything you've learned into a daily, unshakable mindset. Because the truth is this: chaos isn't going anywhere, but your reaction to it can change starting today. The real reward, not just success, but inner freedom. Most entrepreneurs chase freedom, financial freedom, time freedom, creative freedom. But let's be real. What most people actually want is freedom from stress, freedom from panic, freedom from emotional spirals, freedom from feeling controlled by circumstances. That's what Stoicism ultimately gives you. Not a perfect life, but a peaceful mind inside an imperfect life. Not fewer problems, but fewer breakdowns. Not less chaos, but more clarity when the chaos hits. This inner freedom is the ultimate ROI of practicing Stoic principles, and it becomes your most valuable competitive advantage as a founder. Step 1. Commit to the daily practices, not the outcome. Stoicism is built on one unshakable truth. You don't control outcomes. You only control your actions and mindset. So your transformation won't come from forcing results. It comes from showing up to the process every day. Here are the commitments. Morning grounding. Set your intention and prepare for obstacles. Midday control. Check, pause, and ask, is this mine to manage? Evening reflection. Review, adjust, grow. You don't need perfection. You only need consistency. Even 5 minutes a day compounds into mental resilience that feels like a superpower. Step 2. Reframe chaos as fuel. Most entrepreneurs try to avoid stress, but Stoic entrepreneurs use stress. They see chaos as feedback, information, training, a sharpening tool, the forge where resilience is built. You don't get stronger by running from discomfort. You get stronger by learning to stand calmly in it. Remember this phrase: the obstacle is the path. Stoic proverb. Instead of thinking, why is this happening to me? Shift to, what is this teaching me? How is this shaping me? What skill is this moment building? This tiny mindset shift turns chaos into momentum. Step 3. Lead yourself before you lead others. Your team is always watching you, especially in moments of uncertainty. If you're frantic, they're frantic. If you're calm, they become calm. If you're grounded, they ground themselves. The best founders aren't the loudest or most charismatic. They're the ones who project certainty of mind, even in uncertain times. Your calm becomes a strategy. Your clarity becomes a culture. Your composure becomes a competitive advantage. If you master yourself, every decision, conversation, and execution becomes 10 times clearer. Step 4. Choose values over emotions. Stoics don't make emotional decisions. They make value-aligned decisions. As an entrepreneur, your values are your compass. When chaos hits, emotions try to take over. Fear, ego, frustration, doubt, impatience. But values cut through that noise. Before major decisions, ask, what choice aligns with my mission? What action reflects my highest self version as a leader? What would the calm, centered version of me do right now? This is how leaders avoid regret. They choose integrity over impulse. Step 5. Remember the power of perspective. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while facing war, plague, betrayal, and instability. Yet he stayed grounded through one reminder. Your mind shapes your world. You may not control the economy, investors, competitors, or algorithms, but you can control your response, your interpretation, your patience, your decisions, your attitude, your effort. When you shift your perspective, you don't escape reality. You empower yourself within it. Nothing becomes lighter. You become stronger. Step 6. Act now, not later. A calm mind isn't built by thinking about being calm. It's built through action. So starting today, when things go wrong, pause before reacting. When you feel overwhelmed, focus only on what you control. When fear whispers, detach and analyze from a higher perspective. When chaos hits, use your stoic tools, not emotional impulses. Every small decision becomes a brick in your inner fortress. You don't need a perfect life to feel peace. You just need to practice peace in an imperfect life. The final message: chaos doesn't end, but you evolve. Entrepreneurship will always have uncertainty, setbacks, unexpected challenges, pressure, risk, responsibility. But those things stop defining you when you build the inner strength to stand still in the storm. That's what Stoicism offers you. A calm mind in a chaotic world, a steady spirit in turbulent times, a centered identity in the storm of entrepreneurship. You don't eliminate chaos. You outgrow its power over you. This is your path to unshakable calm. Start walking it today. Chapter 7. Building your inner fortress. Real-world case studies and implementation. By now, you understand the theory of Stoicism. You've explored the core principles, the mental frameworks, and the strategies that ancient thinkers used to remain calm in the face of chaos. But Stoicism is not philosophy for reading. It's philosophy for living. This chapter is where we bring it down to earth. Real entrepreneurs, real challenges, real chaos, real results. Because nothing hits harder than seeing Stoicism in action. The real-world power of Stoic thinking. When you read about Seneca or Marcus Aurelius, it's easy to think, yeah, that worked for them. But they were emperors, philosophers, warriors. My business chaos looks different. But that's the interesting part. Chaos doesn't evolve. Pressure feels the same in every generation. Fear has the same voice in every era. And the mind responds in the same pattern ways. Stoicism works in tech startups, in e-commerce, in real estate, in agencies, in solo entrepreneurship. Everywhere people face uncertainty, stress, and responsibility. Let's break down 3 real-world style examples, fictionalized but based on realistic scenarios, that show Stoicism not as a theory, but as a weapon. Case study 1. The founder facing a failing launch, premeditatio malorum in action. Situation: Sarah is launching a new app. The market is competitive, funds are tight, and the pressure is insane. 2 weeks before launch, she realizes the team might miss the deadline. Most founders spiral here: panic, blame, late-night chaos. Sarah uses a Stoic technique instead: premeditatio malorum. The premeditation of setbacks. She sits down and asks, what could go wrong? What is the worst-case scenario? What would I do if that happened? Instead of avoiding the fear, she faces it directly, allowing the emotional charge to drain from it. Outcome: she realizes missing the launch isn't the end, it's just a delay. She can release a lighter MVP instead. She can prepare transparent communication for users. She can reorganize priorities to protect team morale. When the delay actually happens, Sarah doesn't panic. Her team doesn't panic. They already planned for the worst-case scenario. Like a Stoic, she shifted from emotional chaos to strategic clarity. Case study 2. The entrepreneur hit with bad news, mindful detachment. Situation. David runs a small agency. Suddenly, without warning, he loses his biggest client, the one paying 45% of his monthly revenue. Most entrepreneurs instantly spiral. I'm finished. My business is going to die. Everything is falling apart. But David practices Stoic detachment, separating facts from feelings. He asks himself, fact, a client left. Feeling, I'm scared this will ruin my business. Then he challenges the fear. Is that fear objectively true? Or is it a story my mind is creating? He breaks it down. He still has 5 other clients. He has 3 months of runway. He has lead conversations that can be accelerated. He now has time to improve internal bottlenecks. Outcome. Instead of spiraling, David uses the loss as a strategic reset. He improves his onboarding process. He rebuilds his offer. He diversifies income streams. Within 2 months, he replaces the lost revenue and actually grows beyond previous levels. Stoicism didn't remove the challenge. It removed the emotional paralysis. Case study 3. The founder who embraces chaos, a more fatty. Situation. Linda is building a physical product brand. Her shipment gets stuck in customs for weeks, costing her thousands in delays. Most entrepreneurs would rage at the injustice. She doesn't. Linda practices a more fatty, the Stoic idea of loving whatever fate brings. She asks, how is this happening for me? Not to me. And she finds answers. The delay bought her time to refine her product page. It forced her to learn about supply chain weaknesses. It pushed her to build a second supplier relationship. It triggered her to tighten cash flow systems. Outcome. By the next quarter, her logistics are bulletproof. Her listings convert higher. And her business is actually stronger because of the setback. The obstacle became the advantage. The implementation formula. Stoicism you can use today. Understanding the stories is good. Applying them is where the real growth happens. Here's how to build your own inner fortress starting right now. 1. Choose one Stoic practice for this week. Pick one. Premeditatio malorum. Anticipate challenges calmly. Mindful detachment. Separate facts from emotions. A more fatty. Embrace obstacles as opportunities. Control check. Ask what's in your control versus what's not. Negative visualization. Reduce anxiety by imagining loss to build appreciation. Don't do all 5. Just choose one and live it daily. 2. Anchor the practice to a daily trigger. Examples. When you open your laptop. When you get a stressful message. When a problem appears. When something unexpected happens. Before a major meeting. Before deciding under stress. Habits stick when they are tied to triggers. 3. Reflect at night for 2 minutes. Ask, where did I stay calm today? Where did I get reactive? What did I learn about myself? This builds self-awareness, the root of Stoicism. 4. Build the inner fortress one brick at a time. Every calm pause, every reframed thought, every moment of controlled reaction adds a brick to your mental fortress. And one day you'll wake up and realize, chaos doesn't shake you anymore. Stress doesn't break you anymore. You walk through problems with a quiet, centered confidence that others can feel. You didn't eliminate chaos. You evolved past it. Chapter 8. The compounding effect of Stoic habits. Small practices, massive payoffs. If there's one thing entrepreneurs consistently underestimate, it's the power of small habits. We're trained to look for big moves, massive wins, overnight transformations. But every Stoic, from Marcus Aurelius to Epictetus, understood a truth that most modern founders completely overlook. Your inner world doesn't transform through dramatic moments. It transforms through tiny, repeated behavioral shifts that quietly compound into unshakable strength. This chapter is about the long game, not the quick hacks, not the motivational highs, not the one-time mindset boost. This is where Stoicism becomes a system, not just a philosophy. Why Stoic habits compound like interest? Think about how compound interest works. You invest a little, then a little more. And at first, it seems small, almost meaningless. Then something clicks. Momentum builds. Suddenly, the results are exponential. Stoic habits follow the exact same pattern. Every time you choose calm over chaos. Every time you respond rather than react. Every time you pause before spiraling. Every time you reframe instead of panicking. You're not just handling a moment. You're wiring a new default operating system for your mind. And like compounding wealth, the change is slow until it becomes unstoppable. The hidden power of micro-resilience. You've heard about mental resilience, but here's the truth entrepreneurs don't hear enough. Resilience is built in the tiny moments you think don't matter. Not during the big business fires, not during a crisis meeting, not during a financial meltdown. Those are tests, not training. Your resilience is built when you stay calm when a client emails something annoying. You don't panic when a task takes longer than expected. You pause before responding to a stressful message. You choose not to catastrophize a small setback. You detach when your expectations aren't met. You breathe instead of forcing decisions. You accept instead of resisting reality. Each micro moment strengthens the mental muscle that will eventually carry you through the big storms. The 3 pillars of compounding Stoic growth. Let's break down the framework that makes Stoic habits exponential over time. Pillar 1. Awareness, the spark of change. The first shift is simply noticing. I'm reacting emotionally. I'm spiraling into fear. I'm exaggerating the problem. I'm clinging to what I can't control. Most people run on autopilot. Awareness is the moment you step backstage and watch the performance. At this level, nothing dramatic changes outwardly, but internally, this is where transformation starts. Pillar 2. Pause, the break in the pattern. The next evolution is the pause. A few seconds before the reaction. That pause is where Stoicism enters the chat. In that pause, you choose calm over chaos, logic over emotion, reality over fear, response over reaction, control over impulse. The pause is small, but it is everything, because if you interrupt the old pattern, you prevent the old result. Pillar 3. Reframe, the Stoic superpower. Finally, the reframe. This is where you ask, what's actually in my control? What's the worst that could realistically happen? How is this happening for me? Will this matter in a week? A month? A year? What is the most rational next step? This is the moment chaos becomes clarity. It's the instant a problem becomes a lesson, a challenge, a practice, an advantage, a piece of data. Reframing turns emotional storms into strategic moves. And when this becomes a habit, your entire operating system changes. What happens after weeks, months, and years of Stoic practice? Here's the beautiful part. Stoicism compounds quietly. You don't wake up with fireworks. Instead, one day you notice. You don't get triggered as easily. You recover from setbacks faster. You observe instead of overreacting. You stop taking things personally. You make decisions with more clarity. Stress doesn't crush you. It shapes you. You no longer fear uncertainty. You navigate it. People around you say, you seem more grounded. That's your inner fortress forming. Brick by brick, pause by pause, reframe by reframe. And eventually, you become the person you used to look up to, the one who can stand in the middle of a storm with calm eyes and a steady heartbeat. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. The moment you truly become a Stoic entrepreneur, it's not the moment you memorize the philosophy. It's not the moment you read Marcus Aurelius. It's not the moment you watch a motivational clip. It's the moment your habits, small, consistent, steady, begin shaping how you naturally respond to chaos without forcing it. The moment calm becomes instinct. The moment strength becomes second nature. The moment uncertainty stops scaring you. That's when stoicism becomes your superpower. And that's when entrepreneurship stops feeling like a battlefield and starts feeling like a mastery game. Chapter 9. Building systems that make decisions for you. At some point on your decision-making journey, you realize something huge. The goal isn't to make better decisions, it's to make fewer of them. Not because you're lazy, not because you're avoiding responsibility, but because your brain has limits. Every decision, even the tiny ones, subtracts a bit of mental energy from your day. And when you're facing uncertainty, you need every drop of that energy for the decisions that actually matter. So in this chapter, we go from you making decisions to designing systems that make decisions for you, quietly, consistently, and without drama. The hidden tax of tiny decisions. Most people imagine uncertainty as big life-changing dilemmas. Should I switch careers? Should I start this new business? Should I move to a different city? But the real killer isn't the big decisions. It's the constant stream of microscopic ones. What should I eat? Should I start this now or later? Should I message them back right now or wait? Should I wear this or that? Each one seems harmless, but together they create decision fatigue, a slow leak in your mental battery. By 4 p.m., you're exhausted without knowing why. Your brain burned itself out on crumbs, leaving nothing for the big moments. This is why the most effective people deliberately remove small decisions from their daily life. Not to be robotic, but to save their brain power for high uncertainty choices. Systems reduce stress by reducing noise. A system is basically a rule that handles decisions automatically, so you don't have to think. Examples. 1. Predefined routines. You don't decide when to start. The routine decides for you. 2. Default actions. If uncertain, take action A. If blocked, switch to B. If tired, rest. Defaults prevent you from getting stuck in mental loops. 3. Decision scripts. These are small instructions your future self can follow even when overwhelmed. Example. If I'm procrastinating because something feels too big, break it into a 5-minute starter task. Simple, automatic, unstuck. 4. Boundaries. Rules like no work after 8 p.m. Sunday is a planning day, not a working day. Boundaries prevent emotional decisions from hijacking your day, turning uncertainty into a system. The reason uncertainty is stressful is because your brain hates unpredictability. Systems bring structure into chaos. Here's how you transform uncertainty into something manageable. Step 1. Identify recurring decisions. If you had to make the same choice more than 3 times, it needs a system. Step 2. Create a default. What do I do when I don't know what to do? That one question can remove half your anxiety. Step 3. Automate everything possible. Alarms, reminders, planning templates, habit trackers, pre-made checklists. The less your brain has to think, the more it can strategize. Step 4. Test, evaluate, refine. Systems are not rigid. They're living tools that get sharper over time. When you build systems, you build stability. Uncertainty will never go away. It's part of life. But with systems, you stop firefighting every decision. You stop getting stuck in overthinking. You stop burning energy on the pointless stuff. You start making better high-stakes decisions because you're mentally fresh. Systems don't kill spontaneity. They kill chaos. They protect your brain so you can use your creativity, courage, and intuition where they actually matter. The goal: decisions become effortless. Imagine waking up and already knowing what you're doing today, what comes first, what you do if something goes wrong, and what done looks like. That's the power of systems. You're no longer reacting. You're directing. You're not panicking in uncertainty. You're navigating it with clarity. You're not exhausted by choices. You're energized by progress. This is how you transform decision-making from a stressful, draining task into a calm, confident habit that works even on your worst days. Chapter 10. The Stoic Entrepreneur's Legacy: Leading with Purpose Beyond Profit. In the end, entrepreneurship is never just about products, metrics, or bottom lines. It's about impact, the imprint you leave on the world, the lives you change, and the character you build along the way. And if there's one thing Stoicism teaches better than any modern strategy, it's this: your legacy isn't built in a single moment of victory, but in the quiet daily choices you make long before anyone is watching. A Stoic entrepreneur doesn't simply aim to build a successful business. They aim to become a successful human being, resilient, thoughtful, grounded, and deeply aligned with something bigger than themselves. This chapter explores what it means to carry your Stoic principles into the future and how doing so reshapes the kind of leader you become. Your legacy starts with your inner world. Entrepreneurship often pressures people to chase the external: recognition, financial milestones, influence, status. But Stoicism flips the script. It insists that the internal world shapes the external, not the other way around. Your habits form your reputation. Your decisions shape your culture. Your mindset becomes your operating system. And your character, steady, calm, and intentional, becomes the legacy people remember. A Stoic entrepreneur builds from the inside out. They know their greatest asset isn't their funding or network. It's the ability to remain unshaken in the face of chaos, to respond instead of react, and to choose principle over pressure every time. The difference between achievement and impact: it's one thing to achieve things. It's another to make meaningful change. Achievement says, "I built this." Impact says, "This built others." Stoic entrepreneurs aren't obsessed with just scaling products. They're determined to scale principles. The way you treat people, handle failure, and navigate conflict becomes a blueprint that others follow. Your calm becomes someone else's courage. Your clarity becomes someone else's direction. Your discipline becomes someone else's inspiration. Impact echoes far longer than achievement ever will. Rising above ego: a leader without noise. Ego is the silent killer of great entrepreneurs. It makes leaders defensive, insecure, indecisive, or overly aggressive. But Stoicism teaches humility not as weakness, but as strength. A Stoic entrepreneur leads without needing to be the loudest voice in the room. They don't need to win every argument. They don't chase validation from the crowd. Instead, they lead by example, quietly, consistently, and intentionally. Because at the end of the day, the loudest leaders fade first, but the most grounded ones leave ripples that last decades. Your business as a vehicle for virtue. Your company, whether small or global, becomes a platform for expressing who you are. Stoicism revolves around 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, temperance. When translated into entrepreneurship, they become smart decision-making under pressure, the bravery to innovate despite uncertainty, fairness in leadership, partnerships, and culture, self-control in the face of success or temptation. When these virtues guide you, your business becomes more than a revenue engine. It becomes a reflection of your higher self. People can feel when a company is built on virtue. It's in the way customers are treated, how employees are supported, and how problems are handled. This creates something most entrepreneurs crave, but few achieve: trust. And trust outlives any market cycle. Your influence extends beyond the office walls. A Stoic entrepreneur understands that leadership doesn't clock out at 5 p.m. Your behavior ripples outward into your relationships, your family, your community, and the generations that follow. When you stay calm during setbacks, stay honest in tough negotiations, stay consistent when motivation fades, Stay kind when the world grows harsh. You're shaping more than a brand. You're shaping the people who watch you, learn from you, and grow because of you. Your actions become lessons for someone else's future. The power of silent consistency. You don't build a legacy with big speeches or flashy milestones. You build it with small, steady choices repeated over months and years. Waking up when it's hard. Staying principled when it's tempting not to. Choosing long-term thinking over short-term gratification. Acting with integrity when no one will ever know. Stoic entrepreneurs don't chase the dramatic. They master the quiet disciplines that compound into lifelong respect. Passing the torch, the future of Stoic leadership. Imagine a world where leaders aren't overwhelmed by stress, ego, or reactionary decisions. Where founders make moves from clarity, not fear. Where businesses thrive because leaders are steady, intentional, and emotionally grounded. This is the future you contribute to by living stoically. You're not just building a business. You're shaping the next generation of leaders who will model themselves after the calm you demonstrated during chaos. Your legacy becomes a ripple effect of resilience. A final reflection: what truly matters? At the end of your journey, no one will remember the revenue charts or the number of product pivots you pushed through. They'll remember how you made decisions when things were tough, how you treated people when you had power, how you responded when the world pressed you into a corner, and how you carried yourself through the storms. Your legacy isn't the company you built. It's the character you built while building it. This is what the Stoic entrepreneur ultimately leaves behind: a model of calm, integrity, and purpose-driven action for everyone who follows.